think of family, you probably think of warm, loving homes full of hugs, laughter, and support. But not all families are similar. There are some cartoon families out there that will make you thank God that they're not real. From the dysfunctional Simpsons to the crazy Griffins, there are plenty of animated families that are definitely never winning Family of the Year awards. Here are the worst cartoon families of all time. First up, we've got the Smiths from Rick and Morty. This family is the textbook definition of dysfunctional. At the center of it is Rick Sanchez. Dude is a narcissistic and alcoholic genius whose constant toxic behavior causes constant turmoil for his family. His daughter Beth has to be the unluckiest kid growing up with a father like that. Remember that time he told her that she wasn't his daughter and that he would rather believe that she was evil than admit that he was a wicked father? All Beth ever needed was her father's love and a normal family. Who wouldn't want that?
Has it occurred to you that I asked you to make those things because I wanted you to spend time with me? Has it occurred to you that if I did try killing Tommy, it might be because I was jealous of his family?
Wait, what? Why? Wasn't his dad like some kind of cannibal? Seems like it must be hereditary.
Oh my God, this is your fault. I am not a bad person. I'm gonna go back in there, I'm getting Tommy, and I'm fixing this.
Whatever you say, Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Sad, right? We can all agree that not having a safe, loving home environment can lead to all sorts of problems in life. For instance, Beth turned out to be a bad person because of such reasons, and she was really awful. She cheated on her husband with her clone. She always refused to take the blame for her own mistakes. She was about to sacrifice one of her children without hesitation, and the list goes on and on. Let's not forget about Jerry's insecurities, especially when compared to his genius father-in-law and even his wife. His lack of ambition and inability to maintain a stable job contributed to his family's financial instability and increased his feelings of inadequacy. Morty and Summer were embarrassed by their dad's incompetence. Summer even tried her best to be more independent, but she felt the financial burden. Do you remember when Jerry attempted to murder Rick in the Whirly-Durly conspiracy while they were on a cosmic adventure? Not only did his betrayal embarrass him, but it also revealed his fears about his place in his family. His plan failed miserably, and he ended up embarrassing himself further in the process. Morty, on the other hand, faced a lot of trauma and neglect at the hands of his grandpa. At the end of the day, the Smiths are a total mess and can be arguably referred to as one of the most toxic families in cartoon history. Speaking of toxic families, the Griffins from Family Guy are just a hot mess. Peter's lazy, irresponsible, and constantly getting into trouble. He's a pretty awful husband and parent who's more interested in doing what he wants rather than actually taking care of the wife and kids. And the way he treats Meg is just the worst. It's a perfect example of how dysfunctional their family is.
Meg, your mother made soup for you. Here you go, honey.
Well, you know who does love you? The Lord.
Here's your milk.
This is actually the saddest thing I've seen on the internet today. Lois may be the responsible one in the family, but she sure doesn't act like it when it comes to Meg. She doesn't do much to stop Peter from being a jerk to Meg, and sometimes she even joins in on the teasing. It's like she's just as unaware of how hurtful it is to her daughter as the rest of the family. She doesn't even intervene when Chris kicks Meg's butt. Poor Meg, she can't even catch a break. Meg always has it rough, as she's the family's punching bag. I mean, everyone's always making fun of her and treating her like she doesn't matter. It's no wonder she has such low self-esteem. In addition to being constantly put down by her own family, she doesn't have any real friends at school. It's really sad to see the little support she gets from the people who are supposed to love her the most.
Everybody spit on Meg.
Stop! 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 Okay, I meant I can't do it because there are burglars down there.
Come on, they're not gonna touch you.
And Chris? Oh boy, the dude is a total dork. He's like the stereotypical awkward teen, always getting into embarrassing situations and struggling to fit in. He doesn't really get along with anyone at school except for maybe his best friend Neil. He's always trying to impress girls, but it never works out. He's just a classic loser type of character, but in a lovable, dorky kind of way. Don't forget Stewie's obsession with taking over the world and getting rid of his own mother, which is pretty fucked up, by the way. And then there's the fact that Brian, a talking dog, is more responsible than the rest of the family combined. That's a pretty big red flag. But I think the biggest sign of dysfunction is how the two of them interact with each other. Stewie's constantly putting Brian down and making him feel inferior, and just Brian lets it slide because he's so desperate for acceptance.
Called OJ. Yeah, that hurt? That hurt?
What the hell?
Yeah, I don't feel so good, does it? No, huh? Yeah, that's what happened.
Of course it hurts. and it's crazy that he let it slide. The Patakis are another one of those dysfunctional families you wouldn't love to be born into. With Big Bob's overbearing and controlling personality, Miriam's absent-mindedness, and Olga's perfectionism, it's no wonder Helga struggles with her own issues. Poor Helga. She's got it rough in that family. Remember the time Big Bob dismissed her completely because he was too busy focusing on Olga's accomplishments? Or when he forgot her name? Damn, I don't know if it can get any worse. It's clear that Helga felt neglected and overlooked in her own home, and her character tells it all, as she's too complicated and toxic. Her mother, Miriam, doesn't do any better compared to her father, as she also ignored her like she never existed. Honestly, it was heartbreaking to see the little attention and affection she got from her own parents. And let's not forget Bob's illegitimate son, Brainy. We can all agree that that whole storyline was pretty messy. The Simpsons are arguably one of the most famous cartoon families of all time, but they also have their own shortcomings. They're a relatable family, sure, but some of the things they do are obscene. For instance, Homer strangles Bart numerous times.
Joke on your kinder!
It's pretty disturbing to see a father assault his child physically, even if it's supposed to be played for laughs. And then there's that time Marge neglected Maggie to the point where Maggie wandered off and ended up with the Flanders family. Speaking of neglect, there's that one episode where Lisa started confiding in her substitute teacher, Mr. Bergstrom, because she felt neglected and misunderstood by her own family. She felt like no one really understood her and that her intelligence was being ignored. Mr. Bergstrom became a kind of mentor and confidant for her, and she really opened up to him about her frustrations and feelings of isolation. It's a really sad scene that highlights the lack of emotional support and understanding in Lisa's life at home. Next up are the Broflovskis from South Park. Families in South Park are on a whole other level of dysfunction, but this one beats most of them. Gerald and Sheila Broflovsky, together with their sons Kyle and Ike, are a fascinating combination of chaos. Gerald's obsession with lawsuits and Sheila's over-exaggerated reactions to everything from school plays to Saddam Hussein living in their basement are some of the things that make this family so dysfunctional. Remember when Kyle acted as Joseph in a Christmas play, and Sheila couldn't help but interrupt the whole play, saying Kyle doesn't celebrate Christmas? That's how overdramatic Sheila was. And let's not forget Ike's addiction to television. This family is a huge mess, but in the most hilarious and absurd way. One scene that really highlights their dysfunction is when Gerald got obsessed with suing Terrence and Phillip because they thought that the show was corrupting Kyle. He completely ignored Kyle's attempts to reason with him and went on a wild crusade to ban the show, even at the expense of his own son's happiness. Oh boy, if you're looking for a family that's as unique and complex as a Texas barbecue, then look no further. The Hills from King of the Hill are a one-of-a-kind family in cartoon history. They're extremely chaotic, something that's evident throughout the series. There's that time when Peggy accidentally kidnapped a kid from a local pageant just to teach him manners and etiquette. It was absurd and hilarious, but also a perfect example of Peggy's misguided sense of right and wrong. And then there's also that time Hank accidentally sold Bobby to a childless couple. It took him almost forever to realize that he had done something wrong. Isn't that just crazy? Also, let's not forget about the time Peggy secretly enrolled Bobby in a clown school behind Hank's back. There's a ton of awful families, but let's not forget the Turners from The Fairly Odd Parents. Timmy, the kid with the wacky fairy godparents, was from a family that's definitely not winning Family of the Year awards. His parents, Mr. and Mrs. Turner, always leave Timmy alone so that they can go somewhere stupid, leaving the poor kid with a babysitter who regularly abuses him both physically and mentally. Timmy is frequently left to fend for himself. And then there's Vicky, the world's worst babysitter, who constantly torments Timmy and makes his life a living hell. It's no wonder Timmy needs fairy godparents to help him out. There you have it, folks. My pick for the worst cartoon families of all time. Which family did I leave out on the list? Let me know in the comments below, and make sure to subscribe to the channel for more cartoon content.